Hey guys, so I'm gonna have a two-part demo for you this week. We're gonna be doing lava, but we're gonna do like the cool magma rock first, and then we're gonna apply the hot lava to it. And I think this is a really important one. It'll really help with your fire cube. Getting a sense of this stuff being a light source and glowing, and the translucency that comes with that. I think it's going to be something that's really important for you guys to sort of comprehend. I don't think that the demo videos this week uh, showed the light as well as they could. So I really want you guys to please check this one out. All right, about 10 minutes. So, all right. So this one I want to start with mostly dark values because it's black rock, and that gives me like a nice framework for when I'm going to put the reflections on top of the rock. So this is I believe this is in my class set. It's called like Rock Brush. And it just gives like these nice sort of rock-like shapes. And if you notice, I'm making my brush bigger and smaller. And I'm trying to think of like the overall shape of my cube at this stage. Like, sort of compositionally, how is this set up? And, is it going to be a flat cube, or is it going to have sort of melting in the middle because it was hot lava? So I went with the idea of it being sort of melting in the middle. And so after I lay everything down with the texture brush, the texture brush is really a way to like get started. I feel like if you leave it just naked, it looks like a texture brush and it tends to flatten things out. So a lot of these next steps are going to be sort of painting on top using what I have from the texture brush as sort of like a guide. But you'll notice too that I use a lot of selections moving forward, um, because I want this rock to feel, hard. And the way that you do that is you have a good mix of hard and soft edges, like hard where they need to be. And I'm also going to be, you see me like kind of drawing into the texture brush here, using what's there, kind of putting a shadow to it, and then sort of, pushing the value of it into a form rather than just a flat texture. So if you use the lasso tool, if you just hold down Alt when you're using it, that'll erase out of it. So that's how I was getting those cracks out of that selection down there. So here's I'm using an overlay layer to kind of get the overall lighting. It's getting a little dark, but you'll see pretty soon I'll turn the lights on. So this reflective part up top is actually pretty high in value. Not as high as what I just put down, but it's definitely brighter than the shadow part. So those reflections are really key to showing like what type of rock this is. I'm just pulling things from this bottom reference that I like there's sort of parts where it looks like it melted almost like candle wax, but then turned into rock. So that's really cool looking. I always try to find something I'm interested in when I'm painting something. So yeah, this is where practice with that lasso tool is really, really helpful. Like I just made these, rock-like shapes in like a minute. Now I can just kind of cut into them, make those ripple shapes. I'm putting a little bit of soft edges in some parts. Or wherever there's a ridge or something, that's always like a hard edge. If you hit Control H, it'll hide your selection so you can kind of keep your selection, but you can see what's going on. I use that a lot. I'm almost thinking of it like topographically. Like the brighter it is, the more high it is. So like, where it gets a little dark is where it's starting to slope back down. But I'm just trying to have a nice mix of big, medium, and small shapes. I feel like with student stuff, they have a tendency to focus on like the big and medium shape or like the big and small shape, but it's good to have a mix of all three. That's how you make something appear really, really detailed. So now I'm doing the reflected light on that side. Trying to, even though it's the shadow side, I want it to be interesting. Although it's a little too bright, it's making it look flat, so I'm going to darken it up. I want it to be there, but I want it to be really subtle. I'm putting in like bright highlights in certain spots. So it's not a completely dark cube. At this point it's just like little details. Whenever I feel like I'm getting close to being done with something, I like to just slow down and work on some details. Because there's always something you could do. Sorry, there's a sleeping dog here. There's actually two sleeping dogs. If you hear some random snoring, it's not me. So now I'm just going to work into the contour down at the bottom of my clipping layer stack. And I'm trying to make it, I still want it to feel like a cube, but it's really important to mess up these edges to make it, fit the form of what you need. Looks like the last time I tried to make brownies, left them in for too long. So what I'm doing with the reflected light here is I actually just put a multiply on that whole shadow side, so everything got darker, and I'm erasing out where I want the reflected light to be. So that way, instead of making the reflected light brighter, I'm making the shadow darker. So it's a nice way to keep the reflected light and the shadow like more calm and less sort of, you know, contrasty. So here I'm using an overlay layer just to toss in some more color, some color variation. I wanted to get it, you know, make it kind of this cool blue, because that'll really set off when I put the lava in there. It'll make it that much, you know, make the fire that much brighter. So I'm just using like a texture brush and then a big soft brush. Get a little bit of blue in there, almost teal. Okay, so that was part one. Part two, we're gonna turn on that fire. So please watch. All right.